everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jacqueline. You can find me over on Instagram as @JacquelineSalem. Thank you so much for joining me today. If this is your first time watching, I love to post videos about my knitting projects, my sewing projects, things that I finish, things that I have in progress. I posted a couple fabric hauls recently, so if this is your thing, subscribe down below and you can hit the notification bell to know when more videos are up. In today's video, I'm going to show you a knitting project that I have finished and one that I've started and some others that I'm currently dreaming about. So let's get started. So I have finally finished my Astragal sweater. You would think by how long it took me to knit this, almost a year, that this was like some crazy heavily cabled project or something like of a Michelle Wong variety, but no, it's really quite simple and I did love knitting the pattern. I've just kind of been in a knitting slump this year, not a lot of knitting mojo really. Sewing has really taken over my life in a big way. But anyway, I'm so excited to have finally finished the Astragal sweater. I think it's a beautiful pattern. For the last time, because I don't want to bore you with all these details again in another video, this is the Astragal Sweater by Anir Birkenbayeva. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It was a design that was first published in Pom Pom Quarterly, but has since been published as an individual pattern. It first came on my radar when Marilisa of the Girl Meets Yarn podcast showed it and fell in love with her project and felt like I had to knit one for myself. It features this gorgeous yoke design that has like this kind of radiating out from the neckline and kind of looks like a cross section of figs or onions, or at least that's what it reminds me of. It is finished. I have blocked it. The only thing is I have not woven in all of my ends yet because I'm going to rip out a huge section of it. So I know I'm talking about it like it's a finished object, yes, but I'll get to the reason why I'm going to rip back part of it in a second, but I am going to rip out the hemline. Overall, the pattern was like a really wonderful knit. The pattern does call to be knit in DK weight yarn, but I used Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is their woolen spun fingering base, but because it's so lofty and a little bit thicker, I find with my gauge I can get a DK weight gauge with Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and so I love to use Brooklyn Tweed yarn in my sweaters. It's one of my favorite sweater yarns. I've knit the White Horse sweater by Caitlin Hunter using that yarn, and it's my perfect sweater. I wear that sweater all the time, so I figured this would be another great one to add to my wardrobe. It's the Wool Socks colorway, which I looked on their website recently, and unfortunately it seems like it's a colorway that's being discontinued in the Loft line. I'm not sure if I have that wrong, but that's what I read on their website, which is really a shame because I think it's such a great colorway, but I'm sure they have their reasons for doing it, and I'm a loyal Brooklyn Tweed purchaser, so I'm sure I'll just find a different colorway to knit sweaters in the future with, of course. But yeah, so some other modifications that I made beyond yarn substitution. The pattern does call to be, it's a reverse stockinette stitch, and the pattern does call to be knit purled all the way down, but instead of doing that, I just turned it inside out and knit it the opposite direction, if that makes sense. That's what the White Horse sweater has me do, and I thought it was a really good technique. So rather than purling the whole thing, I decided to knit the entire body just inside out so that I didn't have to purl the whole thing, which would have slowed me down a little bit. So I really love that decision that I made for sure. It has this beautiful asymmetrical hemline on it, which I just think is like such a nice detail on the pattern. Hopefully you're seeing that there. And I can't remember if the asymmetrical hem is on the sleeve ribbing or not, but I did not do that. I just did a basic 1x1 twisted rib on the sleeve cuff. The yoke has a twisted rib, so I felt like it would be a nice way to kind of mimic that design. I also did not pay attention to any stitch counts for the sleeves beyond what I was supposed to pick up for the sleeves when I picked up and knit the sleeves. I just kind of tried it on along the way and knit it as slimly as I could to have a more fitted sleeve design, because the body did turn out with a lot more positive ease than I had intended or thought would happen. The stitch count of the body matches my White Horse sweater, or at least the size of the White Horse sweater that I knit. So I was really excited because I love the fit of my White Horse sweater. I used the same exact yarn. I thought, great, this is gonna be amazing. I'll have a sweater that fits exactly the same way. I, as you may or may not know, if you've been watching this YouTube channel for a while, am quite a loose knitter. And I guess I was just feeling particularly loosey-goosey as I was knitting this sweater, and it turned out with quite a bit of positive ease, whereas my White Horse sweater is pretty fitted. So I don't really know what happened there, but long story short, that's the reason why I'm going to be ripping back the hemline, because with all of this positive ease, which I'm going to leave, I'm not going to reknit the whole body. I just don't think I have it in me to reknit this body again. And I think if it's got a little more positive ease than I would usually go for, it's fine, as long as the hem hits me right at my the narrowest part of my waist. So that would be the most flattering point. And right now it's about 4 inches longer than the narrowest part of my natural waist, so it's just not a flattering length on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try on the sweater, mark the final length of where I want the hemline to be, and then knit it according to that, basically. So it hopefully won't take too long. Essentially all I'm going to have to do is reknit this amount of ribbing right here, just reknit this asymmetrical ribbing, and it's only like 1.5, maybe 2 inches of ribbing, which maybe a couple nights, 3 nights tops worth of knitting if I am diligent about it. And I really want to wear this sweater because it is cool season weather here in Brooklyn, New York. There are leaves all over the ground, and it's just the perfect time to be wearing this sweater, and I want to wear it. So that's the last thing that I have to do. I'm going to insert some cutaway footage here for you to see what it looks like on right now, and then kind of flip it up to where I want to knit it. And I think once I do that, it will be finished and perfect for wearing over dresses and with jeans, and I just think it's going to be such a wardrobe staple for me. I have really kind of fallen in love with this lace yoke type of style sweater. I feel like it really suits my fashion and like my clothing sense and the items that I have in my wardrobe. It just fits really seamlessly into my wardrobe. I really love these lacy yokes, which I'll talk about in a little bit because my next sweater project features a similar type of design. But yeah, overall, I really like how the sweater turned out. Again, all I have to really do is just kind of rip back that body to make it the proper length for me, but that's a simple change. The one thing I will say that I am not super keen on is the neckline. I feel like on the model, on the pictures, it's much more of a like crew neck. It looks like a crew neck design. Whereas my sweater is it a crew neck? It's not quite a crew neck, but it's not quite a boat neck either. It's like this kind of in-between thing, which I don't really like, and I wish that it was more of a like an actual crew neck design and not this kind of like in-between thing. I just think that part looks a little bit strange. It almost looks like the neckline has been stretched out. I tried to kind of fix that when I blocked it by like zhuzhing it kind of up to get like, you know, closer to around the neckline in hopes that that would fix the problem, but it didn't really. It just, the neckline is a little bit too big, I think. And then the other thing, which I'm not sure if you're really going to be able to see, but the yarn, and this could be because I used Loft and because I didn't use a DK weight yarn, but when the increases around the onions, for lack of a better word, leave these kind of like holes in it, like these eyelets. But it's not an eyelet. So it's not like it's intended to be an eyelet. It's just that the increasing leaves a gap right there, and I don't love it. And in my White Horse sweater, the yarn kind of bloomed better into those holes, like right here You can see my finger poking through right here. That's like where an increase was, and it's not something that's kind of like part of the design or a lace detail or something like that. So those are my two kind of hang-ups about the pattern. If you use a yarn that's more traditionally DK, perhaps that would not have been an issue if you decide you want to knit this sweater. But that and the neckline, other than that, I do love the sweater, and I think it's going to be a perfect addition to my wardrobe, especially once I just reknit that bottom today. I may just rip off the band-aid, pull it out immediately after this, and just get to knitting it so that it's pretty much like on its way, you know? So again, that's the Astragal Sweater, a pattern by Anir Birkin-Bayeva for Pom Pom Quarterly, knit in Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the wool socks colorway. All of the information about anything I show you will be in the description box down below, so you can find anything I talk about down there. Next, let's talk about sweater patterns that I want to cast on. So I love the clothing brand Cezanne. It's a French clothing company. Their style just really hits the mark for my personal style. So I make a lot of clothes inspired by Cezanne fashion. I just love it. They had a sweater last year. I don't actually know the name of the sweater, but I'll pop it on the screen. It's not for sale anymore, but I love the design, and I took to Instagram to ask if you guys had any suggestions for a knitting pattern that I could use to dupe this sweater. The top two recommendations were Whitmore by Taylor S Studio, Amy Loudon, and Celeste by Sari Nordland. I love both of those sweaters. I actually already had both of them in my queue as contenders, but I wanted to see what other people came up with. Those are the only two that were suggested, and I agree. The Whitmore in particular is going to be superb for duping this Cezanne sweater. So I'm really excited about that. I'm pretty sure that's going to be my next cast on. There are some things that I want to change about it, specifically that the bottom like points of the lace on the yoke are pointed, and I want them to be rounded like the Cezanne sweater. So I'm gonna have to just kind of figure out how to make them rounded instead of pointed with that kind of yarn over, I'm assuming, technique that she's using to kind of make the eyelets more pointed. So I have to figure that out. And then I also really like the body on the Cezanne sweater, so I'm going to alter the pattern of the Whitmore sweater to be like the body of the Cezanne sweater. So that is my current plan. I'm really excited about it. As for color, I know that I want to knit it in either, like I have like 3 color contenders. White, which may be a little bit crazy, but I've always wanted a white sweater, and I think that would be amazing in white. Like a light, icy, misty blue. I'm really into this right now, and I think it would be a great layering piece. That is like not a typical me thing to do, like pastel light colors. Not usually my thing, but I think mixing that into my wardrobe of darker pieces will look like phenomenal, and it will really help that lace pop. And then also, I love the sample of the Cezanne sweater, that kind of chestnutty brown color, and that's a color I've been really into this year because I've talked about in previous videos. I am loving all these warm colors that are in season right now because I have warm undertones in my skin tone, so warm colors definitely look better on me. So I'm loving that there are so many warm colors that are kind of popular right now because it makes it easier to find. So this kind of like chestnut brown color. So those are like my top three favorites. I'm not sure if I'm gonna hold it double with the mohair like the Taylor S Studio pattern has. Mohair, and I have one sweater that I've knit holding mohair with it, and it's one of those things where I'm only itchy when I'm first wearing it, but once I'm like out in the cold, my body kind of gets used to it and it's fine. But it just, I don't know, it adds so much expense to it. And I think if I just use, like, for once actually, because normally I go for sweaters knit in these kind of like farm yarns, non-superwash, but I think that some sort of merino that has like a halo to it. I can't do alpaca because I am allergic to alpaca, but something that has a slight halo to it, not a super polished, not a super high twist yarn, something that's got like a little bit of a halo to it, will look really nice with that patterns. So these are all things that I'm considering. I don't have particular yarn companies in mind yet. I'm not sure what I'm gonna go for. So I'm thinking about that now. We'll definitely get back to you once I pick something. So yeah, I think the next sweater on my docket is gonna be the Whitmore sweater, and I'm going to use that as a basis to dupe a Cezanne sweater that I really love. And finally, I have a new cast on to show you, and it's a hat pattern. Speaking of Sari Nordland, I love so many of her patterns, and this is the first one I've knit. Well, this is the second time I've knit this pattern, but this is the first of her patterns that I knit, and this is the Marlon Hat by Sari Nordland. And this has 4 different sizes, well, 4 different options, 2 different sizes. And in each of the 2 sizes, you have the option of knitting the fold up brim or not. And I am knitting the men's size medium with the fold up brim. This is going to be a hat for Andrew. He picked out this yarn. It is Neighborhood Fiber Co. on their Studio Worsted base, I believe. Yep, Studio Worsted base in the Rock Creek Park colorway. It's 100% organic merino. I was a little bit unsure of this yarn at first because it does have some slight variegation in it. More variegation than I would like, let's just say, for a cabled hat pattern. And I was worried that the yarn was going to obscure the pattern, but Andrew picked out the yarn, and honestly, I'm just happy to be knitting him something that isn't black for once. So I was like, okay, yes, sounds great, let's go for it. But I think it's looking fine, honestly. It's such a fun hat design. I really, really love this pattern. This one, Michelle Wong's, what is it called? I'll put it on the screen. It's the quadri hat. It's such a great pattern. Michelle Wong's quadri hat. I love my Roebling hat design. So if you're looking for cabled hat patterns, Marlon Hat, Michelle Wong's quadri hat, and like, not to toot my own horn, but I really do love my Roebling hat as well. So I love how this is working up. I would say I'm, I don't know, about halfway through the knitting, including the ribbing, but through the charts, I'm probably a third of the way through the chart. It's charted and written out for those of you who like the option. So beautiful, so squishy. I just love how this is working up. It's not a color I would usually go for when knitting something for myself, so it's kind of fun to use something different. I am using a cable needle. I don't know how to cable without a cable needle. I've attempted to learn in the past, but I just couldn't quite get the hang of it for some reason. And I always have a cable needle on me. So I'm sure I'll try again someday. But for now, cabling with the cable needle is what works for me. So pretty, so squishy. So yeah, so that's my work in progress right now until I decide what yarn to use for my Whitmore sweater. And so I'm really looking forward to casting that on once I can decide on color and yarn. And then I just need to reknit the hem of my Astragal sweater. But I'm just so happy to finally have finished this and looking forward to casting on something new. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps other people find it in YouTube's algorithm. And again, you can subscribe down below if you want to see more videos, or follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Jacqueline Salem. I post all of the fabric, sewing, knitting, New York content that you could possibly dream of. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.